Hey guys, Andrew here with a quick announcement before we start this next podcast. I just wanted to say pardon our dust. I know last week this episode was supposed to air, but due to the fact that I'm actually switching podcast hosts and pretty much getting everything up in order, and with that, things can get pretty chaotic. So my apologies for that. And with that also comes another announcement. The podcast will no longer be on every Sunday. It's just going to be every week. I'm hoping to pinpoint a date that works for everybody, including myself. But until then, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and you will be notified every time a new episode airs. Okay? So again, thank you for your understanding. And I hope you enjoy this next episode because it was a lot of fun. Check it out. Welcome everybody to another episode of Mr. Mikhail's Manor of Mischief, Magic, and Mystery, the podcast where we talk all things music, the occult, and just day-to-day life. I am your host, Andrew Mikhail, and welcome to the 6M podcast. It is March 1st, 2020, and we are on episode 11. A little bit of a change of pace from the last episode. For those of you that have tuned in since day one, you might have noticed that episode 10 seemed a little bit grim and glum. And after some time off and just kind of getting my head straight, I feel like we are back in action and ready to rock. But before we dive into today's episode, we have some announcements to make per usual, with the first announcement being to please listen to the podcast as much as you can. I know some of these episodes can get kind of long, so I know the struggle, the day-to-day struggle where you can't finish an episode. But please, if you do start an episode, finish it. Each completed episode, listen, counts towards our stats and our analytics and our ability to grow. More things that count are subscriptions, so please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. I don't like running to social medias to, promote the podcast and whatnot. So I would rather have you guys ready to rock and you get notified whenever I post a new episode. And not only all of that good stuff, but it also counts towards analytics and whatnot. And finally, rate the podcast if you can. I think you're only able to rate it on Apple Music. I'm not sure. But either way, the more ratings the podcast gets, the more it feeds the algorithm and it tells people this is something to listen to or check out. Okay? And another announcement in regards to the podcast is please submit your questions or your band or your latest single to me on all socials if you can. I'm setting something up currently to where everybody can kind of chat together and, brainstorm ideas and ask me questions in a more direct form than this. But until that happens, which is going to be really soon, please submit all of your inquiries, your questions, whenever I ask. Right now, I usually run an Instagram story asking people to submit their questions. And also, if you're in a band or if you're a singer, rapper, or whatever, just submit your stuff to me personally. You can find me on social media at Andrucifer. That's ANDRUCIVER. And that's also on Facebook as well. Cool. All right. So that's it for basic housekeeping. Now we're just going to roll with some ads. Don't worry, guys. This show doesn't have a sponsor just yet, being that we are still in the baby stage of the podcast. So we usually end up doing some homemade ads, so just bear with me real quick. For those of you that don't know already, I am the singer-guitarist of Serpents US and also the owner-operator of True Media Music. And together, we bring you these announcements. Now, some of you might be wondering, what is Serpents US? What is True Media Music? True Media Music is the little label that I created to help in distributing all Serpents US's music. And at the time of its inception, about 10 years ago, I was locked up in record deals, so I couldn't really fly free and shop the band to a real label. So I decided to start my own. And under the imprint, we just released a pre-order for a reissue of Serpent's debut album from 2013 called Born of Ishtar. Sorry, that's a mouthful. And it's been a long time coming. A lot of people have been asking me for this, and the pre-orders, they're doing all right. They're doing okay. Anybody who's pre-ordered it already, I appreciate you so much. However, we do need more pre-orders, so if you guys are interested in the vinyl re-release of Born of Ishtar, please head over to weareserpents.bandcamp.com and pre-order your copy today. It's only going to be one print. Each pre-order helps in making the vinyls, so being that we are a DIY band, every penny that comes in literally gets spent into making more cool stuff for you guys. So help me out. This is all I do. All the money that comes from Serpents goes back to Serpents. I'm not making money from the podcast. I'm not making money from Serpents. I'm not making money at all. So please just do me a favor. If you guys are interested, grab that. Or if you're not, make sure to head to the Bandcamp and grab a CD or a shirt or even a tarot card deck. Every little bit counts. Another announcement, and the final announcement from the Serpents Camp, is please follow us on Spotify if you can. We are at Serpents US on Spotify. Give us a listen if you haven't heard us. We are a Dionysian band by definition, but others might recognize us as a death metal, black metal, deathcore, symphonic metal, you guys get what I'm saying, band. And if you guys are digging the tunes, please throw us on some of your favorite playlists. I know this might seem redundant or kind of like, okay, why? If you guys throw us on a playlist, and if you guys are listening to said songs or said playlist, each listen helps tell Spotify that, we are worth listening to. And not only do you get to, throw us on your favorite workout playlist, but you also help us in the long run. Even if, you can't buy merch or anything like that, something as small as following us and putting us on your favorite playlists, or just listening to us, helps us in huge ways. So if you guys can do that, please do so. And some links for you guys to find us if you're just feeling like, okay, just shut up. You can find us on Facebook at We Are Serpents, Twitter at We Are Serpents. Follow us on Instagram at Serpents Metal, YouTube We Are Serpents, Spotify Serpents US, Bandcamp is our weareserpents.bandcamp.com. And then if you're just like, what the fuck are you saying? Just head to our official site, which is, you guessed it, weareserpents.com. All right, so today's episode is going to be a weird one. Considering that, the last episode was a little off. I was feeling a little bit dark for that last episode. I wanted to go a little bit more lighthearted and try a different approach to the podcast. So if you guys are digging what is about to happen, please comment wherever you saw this podcast. So let's say on my Facebook page, you saw the post and you're like, oh, I'm going to check this out. So if you guys heard this and you're like, I like this format, please tell me in the comments. I'm looking for ways to spice this up or reformat it so it's not mainly just me riffing, kind of like a fucking Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. I'm listening to these old episodes of mine and I'm like, There's some mischief, magic, and mystery. Yes. I talk about some world mysteries. I definitely talk about mischief, and magic is definitely in there. And I'm just trying to bring it all home, trying to figure it out. And I'm not getting much feedback from you guys, which kind of sucks because, I see the numbers. I see you guys are listening, and you don't know like how much that means to me. But at the same time, you guys are kind of leaving me off into sea by myself. And I can withstand the waters, but I would rather have a rescue boat come help me, push me along. So if you guys can, just tell me if you guys are digging this format, the old format, if no formats at all, you want me to change it up. I'm open to ideas. I got a lot of really cool segment ideas. So that's coming up hopefully in the near future. I just have to record the music for each segment. I know you guys are like, you don't have to do that, but this is all about presentation. And, I do put a lot into this, and sometimes I put a little bit more than I needed to. So I'm doing this for you guys. I'm doing this for you listening. Yeah, you. Don't point at yourself. I'm talking about you. Okay, I need to chill a little bit. Just had a monster. Fuck it. Let's roll with the podcast. Let's roll with the episode. So today's episode is going to be based off of a question I had gotten, like I said before, through Instagram. And this question comes from the Pied Piper of Crete, Al Slager. And he asks, if you could pick any vocalist, bassist, drummer, and a second guitarist to play in a quote-unquote supergroup with you from any area of musical history, who would you pick? Considering that my musical background is not traditional in the sense that, I've never really learned how to play guitar. I've never really learned how to make music. I don't really know music theory. A lot of the stuff I've done to date has just been fool's luck or beginner's luck, happy accidents. I think that's what the Bob Ross would say. Is that his name? Bob Ross? I don't know. So I already think pretty lowly of myself as a musician or an artist. I wish I had the confidence to put myself in a supergroup position, both as a musician and as a vocalist. However, I will say lyrically, I think that's my strongest point. And some of you who have never heard my music might be asking yourselves, how can such a babbling fool write intricate lyrics? First of all, look at some of the great poets of our lives, being that most of them are self-appointed fools and certified nutcases like myself. And second of all, the fool is exactly the person you'd want to be hearing music from or reading lyrics from. So don't knock it until you try it, okay? Check out some of my lyrics if you'd like. I'm keen to hear everyone's opinions on what they think each song is about. I know that's a tall order, considering that most of my lyrics are written in old tongue and filled with esoteric or occult Easter eggs throughout all of the lyrics. But give it a shot. Check out some of my work if you haven't already. But back to the question. Assuming that we're not talking about me as a lyricist or a vocalist, assuming that we are talking about me piecing together this supergroup that I don't belong in as the guitarist of this so-called supergroup. First step as the guitarist and founder of the supergroup is I have to find a drummer. That is the key component in every rock band, in every indie band, any funk band, any band or artist even. You need a solid rhythm section. You need a solid backbone of a rhythm section. And I already have it with my friend John King in the Serpents Camp. So I can't use him or any of the other guys in this supergroup because I'm already with them. That'd be cheating, right? So I have a few runner-ups before I announce the big winner here. the big chair here. Now, I have to follow these up by saying that I have runner-ups for each of these chairs. So just in case anybody falls ill, I have replacements for them. Not that I would want to replace them, but we do have an extensive list here, and hence why I figured I'd dedicate this podcast to said list. But the first runner-up in the drummers section goes to Nick Barker. Some of you might know his work from his days in Cradle of Filth, Dimmu Borgir, or as the drummer of Lockup. A lot of you guys might remember him as like being the big bald dude in Cradle of Filth or Dimmu. He's the crazy fast drummer, and he's been one of my favorite drummers in the metal realm since I was like a teenager, and I didn't even know it. It's not like I was like a Nick Barker fanboy, but I was just like, oh my God, it's so smooth sounding, and it's so fast, and it's so pissed. And there's one guy to this day I would love to work with, even if it's like a studio session. I think that would be amazing. Another runner-up would be the famous Morgan Agren. Crazy fusion, jazz, metal, whatever you want drummer, Morgan Agren. I think right now he's on tour with Devin Townsend, or at least just finished up a tour with Devin Townsend, and my God, I would give my left nut to create something with him. But again, I don't think I'm of that caliber as far as like a player. So that's probably a no-go from me. Another runner-up would be the famous VTech from Decapitated, ex-label mates Decapitated. I have to say that because, side note, I'm pretty pissed off at the fact that a lot of his records were taken off of Spotify because of I'm assuming, some music industry bullshit, label bullshit. My suggestion to my alumni, my previous employers, get your shit together and get the music out there for the sake of VTech and for the sake of Coven and just for the sake of music. Get that shit back out there, because VTech's drumming is my favorite in Organic Hallucinosis. One of my favorite Decapitated records. One of my favorite vocal performances, which is from Coven. And I don't know, I would have loved to work with the now late VTech. Another one would be Gene Hoglan. Mainly in the sense that I really enjoy not only his technique, but his feel. Some of you might know Gene from Strapping Young Lad, his work in Death Clock, Testament. I mean, the dude's been in like a million bands, and I probably got some of those wrong. I don't even know. But, I've gotten the pleasure to meet Gene a few times over the years, and honestly, we haven't really talked much every time we met, but I could see him drumming for this supergroup. I don't know. What do you guys think? And the final runner-up would be, and this was a tough one because he was actually my pick for the chair, considering that his drumming style and his groove and his power and just overall, I don't know, man, his legacy. This might come from left field for you guys, but I would have to say that as a kid, I've always wanted to work with Igor Cavalera. Some of you might know him from his work in Sepultura, Cavalera Conspiracy. I mean, dude has done a bunch of shit for metal and for the love of metal, and goddamn, the dude has groove, South American groove in him. I would have loved to, or I would currently love to work with Igor. He's one of my idols in terms of drummers, or metal drummers, I guess. But the chair has to go to world-renowned drummer Danny Carey from Tool. Now, some of you might be wondering, why Danny Carey from Tool? Like, aren't they slow? Doesn't he play in like a death metal band? Don't he need fast? Well, considering I don't think I've ever seen Danny Carey go like death metal fast, I choose him because you will see later on in this lineup what kind of vibe I'm going for. But the fact that Danny Carey is not only a world-renowned drummer, but his groove, like I can't explain it. Like obviously his music theory is out of this world, and that's the reason why he is who he is. But just watching some of the voicings or the techniques that he does with the drums, or even just, I can't explain it. He basically talks through his drum parts. Does that make sense? That's how I like drummers. Like, it's cool and all to have like a basic in the pocket drum beat, and like you could, like AC/DC or whatever. Like that's cool. Like you are the backbone of the band. You're doing your job. That's what it is. But me personally, I like drummers that speak through each hit. Not only is it, the backbone, the rhythm, whatever, it also has its accents here and there. Like Inferno from Behemoth is one of my favorite drummers like around right now that's doing it. But obviously that's a cheap shot, So that's an easy out. Of course, I'd like the drummer of Behemoth. Serpents is like, in the same wheelhouse, but not there yet. But it's kind of in the same vein, right? But I like the fact that he can play the blast beat, but he throws his accents in there. He has his grooves on the toms and shit like that. Like, that's the kind of drumming I love. That's why VTech is just hands down one of like legendary for me. Same thing with Hoagland, same thing with Nick Barker, and Cavalera too, man. Like, and Morgan Agron is just insane. So Danny Carey, I think, is a nice medium between all of them. So the chair would have to go to Tool's Danny Carey. Now, each rhythm section needs a bass player. Bass is just as important as everything else in the band. Don't let anybody fool you. I know a lot of bands these days are scrapping the bass player and going, DI track or direct track or octave pedal to just kind of half-ass their way out of, having to hire anybody or doing any sort of, lessons or anything like that. I don't know anybody's motivations here, but you need a bass player. Bass players need a bassist to look up to. So bass players are fucking important, okay? Don't let any YouTube video tell you otherwise. So, first runner-up have to be Lemmy. Lemmy from Motorhead, Lemmy from Hawkwind, same guy. But I don't know. A lot of people dog on Lemmy's playing style, saying that he's not as good as the world makes him out to be. I don't know. I haven't really looked into it as much. I've just always been a fan of his rawness, his attitude, and the fact that he likes it loud and fucking is just rock and roll personified. That's a good addition to any band. You always got to have those wild cards. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, next runner-up would be Alex Webster from Cannibal Corpse. It's not even worth like diving into. You guys know Cannibal Corpse. Everybody knows Cannibal Corpse. However, the only thing I will dive into is Alex Webster writes, from what I understand, majority of Cannibal Corpse's riffs, lyrics, whatever. And I've watched a lot of videos of him not only playing, but trying to figure out or write parts. And the dude is a genius. Let's just get it out there. The guy is a genius. Crazy technical player. Music theory is, second thought. Like, the dude has everything just in his mind, and I would love to have someone like that in my band. Of course. But for now, I stick with my bass player, Jake the Snake. He's the closest runner-up I think I could have to Alex Webster, so there you go. Jake's probably listening to this like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? It's my podcast, goddammit, I say what I want. All right, next runner-up will be John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelins. Do I really have to explain why he would be an amazing asset to the band? Let's be real. John Paul Jones, great bass player, great producer. Like a lot of people don't know, he's a great songwriter, producer, and he's a multi-instrumentalist. So that alone is really a great asset to have in this scenario. Another one is kind of an odd one. I know some of you might make fun of me, but Sam Rivers from Limp Bizkit would be another one. Not only for the fact that when I was younger and I listened to Limp Bizkit, obviously as a guitarist, you fucking have to listen to Limp Bizkit because Wes Borland is a thing. So, duh. But one of my favorite elements of Limp Bizkit was not just Wes or John or Fred. Definitely not DJ Lethal, but it was Sam Rivers. His bass lines, I don't know, man. They're just, I can't explain it. He's just a solid bass player. Looks fucking cool, and just, I don't know, man. Has that groove. There's not much I can really say about that. Another one would be Nathan East. He's more of a session player, I guess you could call it that. But my favorite work of his would be his work with Daft Punk on Random Access Memories. I think that's what the album is called. Either way, the whole album is just fucking rich with just smooth bass that'll just make you fucking dance. And you're just like, God damn. And oddly enough, he was at NAMM, I guess, a couple months ago. And I wish I would have saw him at NAMM. I didn't even know, if he was there, or he probably could have walked next to me. I probably wouldn't have known it. But I saw a video of him jamming at NAMM, and Stevie Wonder rolled up, and he was playing a Stevie Wonder song. So that's kind of cool. I don't know. That's kind of cool to have a legend kind of listen to you play their songs. I don't know. I say cool. Some might say nightmare. Either way, he's on the list. Now, the winner, or the person who gets the bass chair, would be Peter Steele of Typo Negative fame. For many reasons. For one, being that he's one of my favorite frontmen / bassists in the market. Well, he was. For those of you that don't know, Peter Steele died a few years ago. But regardless, his personality, his tone, his persona, I guess that would be personality, and his playing would just be perfect for this band I'm forming. So far we have Danny Carey from Tool, Peter Steele from Typo Negative. Okay. Peter Steele, words, I cannot express how much love I have for the Green Man. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm just brushing this off, but this whole podcast could be a podcast about Peter Steele appreciation. Okay? So I'm doing this for your sake. I'm speeding it along. Now, for the next chair. So we have the drummer. We have the bass player. We got a solid backbone of a band. Now, I guess as the other guitarist, I have to find a lead guitarist. Or just a guitarist in general, right? Could be lead, could be rhythm. I'm definitely not lead, but whatever. My first pick, again, has to go to my boy, Miles Elgood, a.k.a. Smiles Feel Good. He's the other guitarist in Serpents. One of my favorite people just around. I would love to have him in this group with Danny Carey and Peter Steele, but the getting's too good. Sorry, Miles. I gotta move on. That sounded so scripted, but it's not, I swear. It's all Monster Energy drink, folks. My first runner-up would have to be, for guitar, would have to be Salim Lamouchi. I think that's how you say it. Some of you may know him as the guitarist of The Devil's Blood or Selim Lamucci and His Enemies. He's actually passed on. Well, there's a story behind that involves a lot of occult belief and something I could get into in another podcast episode as well. But either way, his music is one of my favorite things to listen to. Either if it's The Devil's Blood or Selim and His Enemies. I just love his writing, or I loved his writing, his atmosphere, his tone, his theme behind the music. I believe he wrote a lot of the lyrics for The Devil's Blood and stuff like that. And obviously, as an occultist, The Devil's Blood or lyrics like that is my shit. So I would definitely have him if he were still with us today. But unfortunately, I got somebody reserved for the top chair. So let's move it on. Trying not to waste too much of your guys' time. Next on the list, obviously, would have to be Steve Vai. This was a tough one for me because as a guitarist, I have a lot of choices here. But I would have to say, with Peter Steele and Danny Carey, I wouldn't be much help. So I would need a virtuoso type. Now, not only does Steve Vai an amazing soloist or songwriter or fashion icon or tone guru, or I mean, you guys know I could just keep going, but he knows how to balance his playing. I mean, there's not much else I could really say. The dude is an amazing guitarist and a songwriter. I don't know. I know that just is a roundabout way of saying the same exact thing. But really, what can I, Andrew Mikhail, say about Steve Vai? Who am I? So moving along, another runner-up would be Prince. Prince, as some of you may know him as the artist formerly known as Prince. But unfortunately, he's not with us today as well. But his tone, his playing, his songwriting, his persona, his stage performance, his everything, his piano playing. Oh my God, I would have loved to be in a band with Prince. It would look kind of weird with him and me. But God, man, God damn, I would have loved to be anywhere near Prince. Just even as a fly on the wall in a fucking session. Like, I can't really describe to you guys how much his playing has not only shaped my songwriting, but also, as a child growing up, it's like I grew up with Prince, and without him fucking shredding a solo here and there in like a pop song, like you honestly wouldn't see that in pop music these days. And I think a lot of people take that for granted. The fact that pop stars back then actually like could shred a piano, a fucking guitar, a bass, whatever, and then get to the next song and switch the instrument and do that and do it all night, every night, So there's really not much I could say about the genius of Prince or Steve Vai or Selim or this runner-up, Jimi Hendrix. Yes, Jimi Hendrix. A lot of you are like, okay, Danny Carey, Peter Steele, Jimi Hendrix. I know it's kind of a weird combo. Oh, and me. Oof. Jimi Hendrix was actually one of my biggest idols growing up. I believe I remember in 5th or 6th grade, I even did a school presentation, like the biggest presentation of the grade. And I dedicated it to Jimi Hendrix while everyone else was doing like presidents and shit like that. Presidents, basketball players, football players. And mine was about Jimi Hendrix. Not much I could say that hasn't been said already. I would have loved to even see Jimi Hendrix, let alone fucking be in a band with the guy. So definitely he's on the list. And another runner-up would be the great Devin Townsend of the Devin Townsend Project, Strapping Young Lad, and Devin Townsend, and Steve Vai. A lot of you guys don't know that. Devin Townsend used to sing for Steve Vai, which is partially another reason why I thought Steve Vai is a great just band member, because, I mean, he has been in other bands as the guitar player, and a lot of you guys know him as a soloist, but his work in other bands actually pretty fucking, I don't know, man, it's pretty fucking cool to see that he can back off and do that stuff. But okay, to Devin Townsend. Oh my God, there's a song playing right now. Sorry, folks. We have some technical difficulties here. Devin Townsend fucking hacked my my DAW, started playing music. He's like, please don't talk about me, man. You've talked about me enough. Some of you guys might have saw, I met Devin at NAMM. He's a really nice guy, really soft-spoken, really shy. And I had a chance to tell him everything I thought about him, and I did. And he was really nice about it. Don't worry, guys. I had nothing but great things to say. If anything, I told him I appreciate him as a person more than an artist, because honestly, I've never heard anybody speak about life as a musician or as an artist. I've never heard anybody speak so truly, and I don't know. I matched, or it resonated with me. How about that? But as far as his playing goes, he's an amazing lead player, even better rhythm player, amazing producer, great songwriter, amazing singer. Would love to have him on backing vocals along with Peter Steele for the baritone. But unfortunately, he's a self-identified bad band member. Don't believe me? Read some of his most recent interviews. I mean, the guy basically is saying what a lot of, musicians that go solo, he's saying what a lot of people like that are saying. It's like, it's great to be in a band and all that, but sometimes somebody can just be a bad band member. Just a guy who works best alone, and that was Devin. So I had to knock him from the main guitar chair for this person. My other guitarist of this supergroup would be David Gilmour, if it were a perfect world. If you don't know who David Gilmour is, he is the guitarist and vocalist of Pink Floyd, as well as the guitarist and vocalist of David Gilmour. So I don't even know where to begin as far as talking up David Gilmour or saying what hasn't been said. He's one of my favorite guitar players of all time, and that is saying a lot, considering there are a lot of amazing guitar players in the world, past, present, and even future. But for me, I think it's more of a nostalgia thing. I grew up listening to Pink Floyd, not by choice. My parents blared Pink Floyd on a daily basis, whether if it's in the car or if it's in the house or wherever. Usually my dad was jamming out to some Pink Floyd. And honestly, even as a young guitarist or as a young kid, a lot of my attempts to write or, make a lick here and there, my dad would often tell me, like, yeah, that's cool, but hey, listen to this. And he would often show me like a Pink Floyd song, or, I'd show him a little lead or a little lick, and he'd be like, yeah, but you should try it and write like this. And he'd show me David Gilmour. And I was just like, what the fuck, Dad? Obviously, I didn't say that because being a Middle Eastern child, you can't really say stuff like that to your parents or call them dad, but that's here nor there. Either way, I was always held up to this standard against David Gilmour, and as an adult, I don't know why the fuck that actually happened, considering it was like always, it was always one-upping, I'd be like, hey, my album reached the Billboard charts, Like, yeah, but have you heard this Pink Floyd song from Live from Pompeii? It's like, what the fuck, dude? But honestly, it wasn't until I was older. You know, I dissected, you know, Pink Floyd. I was on this quest to understand why my dad preferred this over what I was doing, which looking back is like, obviously because Pink Floyd is better. But, you know, I was always trying to figure it out. Like, what is it about my music that isn't up to par with this? And the main thing is tone. And when I say tone, I'm not talking about setting up an Axe Effects and fucking EQing the shit out of it to get the best, whatever. I'm talking about the tone in David Gilmour's fingers. When you hear Pink Floyd, you're hearing songs, solos, whatever, good tunes. But when I hear it, I hear emotion. I hear feeling. Every solo, it just comes in velvety, and it's like his guitar is crying. You know, it's just emotion. And after dissecting Pink Floyd for a lot of years and trying to figure it out, that's the thing that I was missing at the time, was emotion. So eventually I try to write my leads or my solos in the sense like David Gilmour, where it's not crazy technical. You know, we're not, you know, wanking on the guitar here, but it has emotion. It has something to say. It's like it's talking. See, I like my instruments like they're talking. Bass, drums, guitars, keys even. But yeah, David Gilmour would have to take the chair for the sake of it's fucking David Gilmour. And I would love to be in the same room with him, let alone be in a band with him. But speaking of keyboardists, this might be a add-on to the question, but honestly, I looked at the question. I said, okay, but if it's a band that I want to create, I definitely need somebody on keys or a programmer or a whatever. So I'm going to give you a keyboard chair. How about that? First runner-up on that gig would be Tom York, of course, of Radiohead and of Tom York fame. I just love the atmosphere he can create with his music, his voice. Hey, he can be a backup vocalist. And there's not much I could say about Radiohead that hasn't been said. Again, a lot of this list is like, okay, you're talking about legends here, so you're not saying much. But Tom York, another big one for me would have to be Mustis. I think that's how you would say it. He was the keyboardist of Dimmu Borgir. Not only do I love all of his work in Dimmu Borgir, but I stumbled onto a video many years ago of Mustis playing at like some party. It looked like a house party. And the music he played and the way he played it, like within this house party, I guess, atmosphere, was just so beautiful, and it stood out to me so much. Like, you can see all the drunk people around him, you know, tapping his shoulder while he's playing, and he's talking and concentrating and talking and he's playing the whole time. And I don't know, he's like a weird mix of like metal but like classical in terms of his composition, his arrangements, his playing style. I don't know. I love Mustis, and I really want to see him in another band. Fucking, if you're not doing anything, come to Serpents, buddy. Another keyboardist I'd have to throw in the mix is obviously the late Richard Wright. He was the keyboardist of Pink Floyd. Obviously, if you're going to have David Gilmour, you're going to need Richard Wright to make all those atmospheres for you. So you can thank Richard Wright for the sound of Pink Floyd if you're not familiar already. Another keyboardist, songwriter, producer I would have on board is Phineas. Yes, the same Phineas that is the brother of Billie Eilish. Just because I just really like his songwriting, and in a band with Danny Carey, Peter Steele, David Gilmour, I think Phineas would be a great addition. You know, he would help round out the mix. If we want to go electronic and do like an electronic break, we could fucking have him in there. You know? Help us write some Beatles-like songs. I'm not a big fan of the Beatles, but if you're going to get players like that, you can definitely get some really great songs out of Phineas in the mix. But another keyboardist, the last runner-up for this slot, would be Vangelis. I don't know how you would say it. But he's a Greek composer. A lot of you might know him from his work in Blade Runner. He does a lot of soundtracks, shit like that. I love his work. I don't know. I like his work when it comes to like orchestration. I like his work when it comes to atmosphere. I like his work when it comes to even the electronic aspect of things. Big fan of his stuff, and I would love to have him in this mix for sure. But the chair, my friends, has to go to fucking Yanni. Yes, Yanni. I've been on a Yanni kick as of late, probably because the YouTube algorithm knows that I am dying for some inspiration right now, and I basically could say that Yanni is probably one of my bigger influences when it comes to writing or creating music, even for Serpents. And you know, I think my first concert was Yanni, and I think it was either right after the Acropolis tour or during. I don't remember. I remember getting what is it called? A play, whatever. I got something from the Yanni show. Remember, it says something about the Acropolis, but I was too young to even understand what was going on. Fun fact, I even went to this Yanni show because I didn't want to go. I went there with a Walkman CD player, and I remember I had Slipknot in the I had the Slipknot debut in the CD player because I was like, this is gonna suck. I'm gonna hate this. I didn't want to go. My parents were like, you know, I had to be with them at all times pretty much. So they were like, you're coming with. And honestly, in just talking about this on the side note, my parents took me to fucking see Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and I did not even know what that was. And I wish I would have known now that I saw basically like a legendary show. And they took me to see the Gypsy Kings, which was an amazing experience. Again, another show. All three shows I brought my own Walkman to because I thought I was going to hate everything. I was I still am pretty pessimistic, I guess. But either way, Yanni would be a huge, huge addition to this supergroup. So just to recap, we got Yanni, Danny Carey, Peter Steele, David Gilmour, and now we need a front person. We need a front person. That's not going to be me, folks. Trust me. I'm not going to sing and play guitar in this band. I'm literally just going to play guitar and just get spacey. Maybe I'll just get really high and play. And Yanni could just smile at me from the center. Or, well, he would probably be in the back considering his keyboards, but I'd be locking eyes with Yanni the whole time. We'd be nodding heads, pointing fingers at each other, rocking out, you know? Peter Steele would just be in the zone. Danny Carey would be too busy fucking, I don't know, doing Danny Carey shit. And David Gilmour would just be in the spotlight. Well, maybe Yanni too. I don't know. Maybe he'll get another spotlight too. So maybe 2 spots and another spot. So maybe 3 spots, 3 spotlights. See, this is a super group that hasn't been formed yet or won't ever. And I'm already figuring out the stage configuration, the spotlight configuration. See, guys, you always got to be thinking. You know, a lot of you guys call yourselves entrepreneurs, but I don't see you guys fucking putting together these supergroups and the stage show along with it. Oh, yeah, that's right, Al. We're going to talk about video wall. We're going to fucking talk about stage design. We're going to no, I'm just kidding. We're only going to talk about members right now. But first runner-up for vocals, Ronnie James Dio. Dio of Black Sabbath, or Heaven and Hell. I just love Dio's voice. I love his persona. I love his lyrics. I don't know. I love all things Dio. I'm happy I got to live in the same world as Ronnie James Dio at the time. Unfortunately, he's obviously passed, but it would have been a real honor to work with RJD. All right. Next runner-up would be Jim Morrison, but not just any Jim Morrison. I want the Jim Morrison from the LA Woman days. I want fucking crazy, bearded, fucking belly Jim Morrison. I love that dark, guttural, fucking bluesy tone. I don't know, man. I just love I love his vibe. I love all that kind of shit. Some of you guys don't know, but you know, I'm more of a fan of that kind of vocal style, more of a kind of dirty, fucking almost drunken sounding. Which brings me to my next runner-up would be the great Tom Waits. Again, I love his voice. I would love to be in a creative position with Tom Waits, considering that his music is just way out there. I mean, to me, it's on the level of like Frank Zappa. I don't know. Al, you might fucking shoot me for that, but I think Tom Waits would be fucking great for this band. You know, you got David Gilmour singing highs, Peter singing the baritones, and fucking put Tom Waits or Jim Morrison in the mids. Whew. I don't know. That's just me. Plus, I love the way he tells a story with a song. I don't know. If you guys agree, tell me in the comments. All right, so moving on. Stevie Nicks of Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac, of course. I just love her voice. There's nothing much to it. I love her voice, and I would love to have a Stevie Nicks velvety vocal line bless any of my tracks any time of my life. So there's nothing much to say about Stevie Nicks here. Another runner-up, the final runner-up would be Bjork. Yes, Bjork, or Bjork, or Bork. I just love her persona. I love her. Well, it sounds like I'm saying I love her, but I just love her persona. I love her voice. I love her creativity. She's always been kind of out there. And, you know, as a kid, again, this kind of goes back to nostalgia. Same thing with Yanni and David Gilmour. As a kid, my aunt would listen to Bjork, and she listened to Oasis, or I'm sure she still does. But basically, I grew up with, you know, the Pink Floyd, Journey, 80s, disco from my parents. And then from my extended family, I got, you know, hip hop. I got metal, like Tool. You know, I didn't even know, like, my uncles knew Meshuggah because they fucking saw Meshuggah open up for Tool like years ago. You know, it's the shit I'm talking about. Like, my musical background is all over the place. Oh, and let's not forget, as a kid, I used to like Indian music, like Bollywood music, and also Assyrian music. So like a traditional Assyrian music. Like, those are the things I grew up with, and you put all that shit into one, and that's where you get my weird sense of direction. But my aunt showed me the ways of Bjork, and I have never looked back. You know, this is way back in the day, but I haven't stopped listening to each album that she comes out with ever since. So we're talking maybe the 90s. And truth be told, I may have looked for her when I went to Iceland last year, or was it 2 years ago? I don't remember. And spoiler alert, best believe when I go to Iceland in September, I'm going to go look for her again. Somebody please connect me with Bjork, please. All right. And the top chair for vocalist goes to Farida Lemucci, sister of Salim Lemucci. Or I hope I'm saying this right. And with that being said, she is the singer of The Devil's Blood, one of my favorite bands, one of my favorite guilty pleasures, because, you know, they're not around anymore. And they were quite the occult, satanic kind of band. But it's one of my guilty pleasures in the sense that it's kind of like 70s rock. She's got a real bluesy voice, and her voice matches with like not only the rock aspect of the band, but also the psychedelic aspect of the band. And she just has this tone to her voice and soul when she's speaking about, you know, the devil or Lucifer, or, you know, any the stars and shit like that, like everything. I don't know. I would love to have her front this band. So not only for lyrical content, like obviously Salim and her, I think, wrote lyrics. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But either way, hopefully she can take some of that mojo and bring it into this band. So Yanni, Danny Carey. So wait, let me recap. Yanni on keyboard, Danny Carey on drums, Peter Steele on bass, David Gilmour on lead guitar, Andrew Mikhail guitar, and Farida Lemucci on vocals. So if you look at all those aspects, not only do you get like a well-rounded group of musicians, minus myself, but you get a certain genre, a certain vibe. And I personally would love to be in a band that could blend all of these components together in their sound. But I'm more keen with metal music. It's music I can play. I can't play like fucking, you know, Pink Floyd songs or anything like that, or I'm not a virtuoso. So, you know, I went the metal route, and you know, I love what I do, and I love the genre I'm in, and I love the way metal just fucking makes you feel. But I would have loved to do this supergroup and have more of a psychedelic, not like corny psychedelic. Like, I'm not talking about like, you know, the Grateful Dead. Sorry, Al. But more like just atmosphere. And like you get Yanni with some symphonic elements, a little bit of atmosphere, little keyboard here and there. Danny Carey and Peter Steele fucking hitting that rhythm section, slow and low and just sexy. David Gilmour with that soul, the tone, and even the psychedelic aspects. And then you get me, and then you get Farida with her just fucking mesmerizing presence and oddly angelic voice. I would kill to hear a band with that combination. But obviously, you know, with Peter Steele being no longer with us, that can't happen. But he does have a runner-up or two, if you guys don't remember. So maybe this could happen. Hey guys, can you get me into contact with Farida, David, Danny, and Yanni, please? Thank you. And notice, yes, I called them by their first names because we know each other now. We're in agreement here. We're in talks. Hashtag big things coming. Hashtag big announcement tomorrow. Hashtag stay tuned. No, I'm just kidding, guys. But I think that rounds out the band. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear what you guys thought of my super awesome new supergroup. Or if you thought it sucked, let me know. I want to hear why. And with that being said, I think that about wraps up this episode of the podcast. And as always, we do have a featured artist of the week. But before we get there, We have to do some little housekeeping here. If you guys enjoyed the podcast, if you listened this far, please subscribe to the podcast, rate the podcast, and comment where applicable. And if you'd like me to answer any of your questions on the podcast, feel free to DM me either on Instagram or Facebook. And if you'd also like to have your band featured on the podcast, feel free to reach out as well. Sound good? Awesome. Now that we've got the housekeeping out of the way, let's get on with our featured artist of the week, which is Wastewalker from Sacramento, California. Some of you might already know Wastewalker, considering they have members of Alter Beast and Conducting from the Grave within the band. And I actually stumbled onto them visiting my old friend John Abernathy when Wastewalker ended up playing in Austin maybe a couple years ago. And not only did I got a chance to reconnect with John, considering he's a rapper as well. Crazy. He's a fucking shredder and a rapper. It's fucking crazy. But I ended up seeing Wastewalker live, and I was blown away by their stage presence, their songs, their shredding. I mean, it's a killer band, and in my opinion, they don't get the recognition that they deserve. And honestly, today, March 1st, they just dropped a new track called The Moth, I believe, off of their upcoming album, Lowborn. And I heard this song compared to some of their old material, and they're definitely leveling up. I would definitely start looking into Wastewalker if you haven't already. You can find them on Facebook at Wastewalker Metal, find them on Instagram at Wastewalker Metal, and get acquainted, because I definitely believe that they are on the upswing of things, and I am curious and also excited to see what unravels for them. So this is Wastewalker's newest single called The Moth off of their new album coming out May 12th, entitled Lowborn. See you guys next week. Thanks for listening.